The incarnation of Christ is one of the most profound and essential doctrines of Christianity. It is the glorious truth that the eternal Word and Son of God became flesh, stepping into the world He created to redeem humanity. As John verse 1 says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." In verse 14, it continues, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." This means that Jesus Christ, who existed eternally as God, chose to take on human nature without ceasing to be divine. It was an act of unimaginable humility and love, as described in Philippians chapter 2 verses 6 to 8, who, being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant, and coming in the likeness of men. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross. The miracle of the Incarnation began with the virgin birth, as foretold in Isaiah verse 7:14 and fulfilled in Matthew chapter 1 verses 22 and 23. "Behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel," which is translated, God with us. This was not just a human event but a divine act, as the angel explained to Mary in Luke chapter 1 verses 35. "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Highest will overshadow you. Therefore also, that Holy One who is to be born will be called the Son of God." Christ's incarnation was not a mere appearance or temporary state. He became truly human. He experienced human limitations, as seen in Luke chapter 2 verses 40 and 52. "The child grew and became strong in spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was upon him. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and men. He felt hunger, as shown in Matthew chapter 4 verse 2, and weariness, as described in John chapter 4 verse 6, where Jesus, tired from his journey, sat by a well." The incarnation also meant that Jesus subjected himself to the Father's will, taking the role of a servant. In John chapter 14 verse 28, Jesus said, "My Father is greater than I." This reflects his earthly mission, not a difference in his divine nature. As Mark chapter 10 verse 45 declares, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." Moreover, the incarnation fulfills the messianic prophecies of the Old Testament. Psalm 22 vividly portrays the suffering of the Messiah, echoed in the gospel accounts of the crucifixion. In Matthew chapter 27 verses 35 to 44, we see the soldiers casting lots for Jesus' garments and the mockery he endured. Yet, through this suffering, he accomplished the redemption of humanity, as foretold in Isaiah chapter 53. It is also crucial to understand that the incarnation does not diminish Christ's divinity. As Hebrews chapter 1 verses 3 and 12 proclaim, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is both fully God and fully man, the bridge between heaven and earth. In John chapter 16 verse 30, the disciples declare, "Now we are sure that you know all things. By this, we believe that you came forth from God." The incarnation is not only a theological concept, but also a profound comfort to believers. Jesus' humanity means he understands our struggles. Hebrews chapter 4 verse 15 assures us, "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin." This doctrine also reveals God's immense love for humanity. As John chapter 3 verse 16 famously states, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life." Furthermore, the incarnation underlies the importance of faith. To skeptics, it may seem implausible that the infinite God could take on finite flesh. Yet, this is precisely the mystery and glory of the gospel. In 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 16, Paul writes, "Great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifested in the flesh." Through the incarnation, Jesus not only reveals God to us, but also makes it possible for us to be reconciled to him. As Paul explains in Colossians chapter 1 verses 19 and 20, "For it pleased the Father that in him all the fullness should dwell, and by him to reconcile all things to himself, whether things on earth or things in heaven, having made peace through the blood of his cross. Jesus' life, death, and resurrection all stem from his incarnation. His earthly ministry demonstrated his power over nature, sickness, and even death, proving his divine authority. His sacrificial death on the cross was the ultimate act of love and obedience, fulfilling the Father's plan of salvation. And his resurrection assures us of his victory over sin and death, giving hope to all who believe in him. In conclusion, the incarnation of Christ is the cornerstone of the Christian faith. It is the profound mystery that God became man to save us. It calls us to awe, gratitude, and faith, reminding us that God's ways are higher than ours and his love beyond measure. As believers, let us embrace this truth with reverence and share it with others, so they too may come to know the God who loved us enough to walk among us and give his life for our redemption.